What would you do if you were living in a world where we were quickly running out of oxygen, food, and plants? While this may sound extreme, this may be closer to real life than you think. Today, I will be sharing information with you on why we should be working to save the bee population. The bees affect us all by affecting our plant and crop, agriculture, and economy. I've been researching this topic for weeks, and I am prepared to share with you the reasons why we should be working to save the bee population. We should save the bees because they benefit our agriculture and our economy, and we can do so by taking 5 minutes out of our day to plant one or two bee friendly flowers. So, what's the buzz about the bee population? Bees are more important to our world than we think. The survey conducted for the class showed some interesting results. 92% of those who responded said yes to "Do you often use bee products like wax or honey?" And 42% said that they use 6 to 10 bee products a day, whether it be food or wax and honey, like the first question. When I asked, why should we save the bees? One response said, bees play a huge role in producing the things we use every day and are a huge part of our economy. When I asked, what should we be doing to save the bees? Several responses said, plant flowers and support nature reserves, identify sources of viruses killing the bees, and to fund research. Bees contribute to our agriculture, and this is their main contribution to society. According to the National Development and Reform Commission, or the NDRC's article, Why We Need Bees, bees are pollinators. Cross-pollination helps at least 30% of the world's crops and 90% of wild plants to thrive. Without bees, many plants, including food crops, would die off. A 2014 article from BBC News says honeybees are responsible for $30 billion a year in crops. We may lose all the plants bees pollinate, all animals that eat those plants, and so on up the food chain, which means a world without bees could struggle to sustain the current world population of 7 billion. Not only do bees affect our agriculture, but they also work to support our economy. The NDRC's article, Why We Need Bees, states the global economic cost of bee decline, including lower crop yields and increased production, has been estimated at as high as $5.7 billion per year. So now that you know what bees do for our society and for our world, what's the problem? In Patterns of Widespread Decline in North American Bumblebees, Sidney Cameron states the relative abundances of 4 species have declined up to 96%, and their surveyed geographic ranges have contracted by 23 to 87%. The role of the bee from SOS Bees states there's been a 40% loss of commercial honeybees in the U.S. since 2006, as well as a 45% loss of commercial honeybees in the UK since 2010. We know that the bee population declining seriously affects us, so what can we do to prevent this? Doing your part to save the bees consists of simple solutions. In March 2016, the New York Bee Sanctuary posted 10 things we could do to help the bee population. They suggest not using pesticides or herbicides, buying local honey, not weeding your garden, and leaving a water dish out for bees to drink from. Jonna Robbins from Honeybee Conservancy says build a bee garden with bee-friendly flowers, a bee bath, and maybe a home for a solitary bee. If you don't want to take action in these sorts of ways, you could also donate money to supporting causes. The NDRC, the Honeybee Conservancy, and the Pollinator Partnership always accept donations to those willing to support the decline of the bee population. Cheerios is also taking an initiative. Cheerios has begun selling boxes without Buzz the Bee on them in hopes that people will realize the effect of bees leaving our world. From 2018, their website states, Honey Nut Cheerios is continuing its mission to bring back the bees. We've partnered with Pages Seeds to give away a packet of seeds in specially marked boxes of Honey Nut Cheerios. So now that you know some background information about what's happening to the bees, what they contribute to our world, and what we can do, what happens if no one were to take action? Barbara Weaver from Duke Green University answers this question with 2 extreme scenarios, as well as one that could potentially happen. The first extreme scenario shows robots completely replacing our world's pollinators. In this scenario, we would be using only clean energy in our world, and the majority of people would be vegans because the food animals would eventually die off without the help of actual pollinators like bees. This is an extreme scenario that actually would turn out pretty well for our world. The second scenario does not, however. This one shows food beginning to slowly go off the shelves or maybe even just skyrocket in price. The crops would soon begin to disappear, the fruits and vegetables, eventually maybe the meat would even begin to disappear. This food war would cause mass panic throughout the world. Fights would break out between people fighting for their food. And of course, not every plant is pollinated by bees, but the majority that are things that humans tend to eat. So this would cause mass panic and maybe even start a war of some sort. Of course, this is a very extreme solution as well. So let's find the happy medium. Barbara Weaver says, everyone needs to take action. If we all take action, a new scenario will occur. If we plant bee-friendly flowers and create a safe environment for bees, we may be able to delay their extinction or even prevent it and just keep going on like we are currently in our world. Bees are important to our environment, our agriculture, and our economy. We need to take action to prevent the extinction of the bees by planting bee-friendly flowers, supporting environmentally green farming, or even just by donating to the cause. We could potentially be facing a future with less plants, less food, and therefore less people. By taking 5 minutes to plant 1 to 2 bee-friendly flowers a day, we could all help contribute to the dying bee population. A world without plants, food, oxygen does sound pretty scary, but it may be closer than we think. In order to prevent this, we all need to work together and take the time to help save the bees.